Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for our webinar, Gaining Traction in Times of Crisis, 6 Keys to Getting to Know what you want from your entrepreneurial company. Our presenter today is Chris Jones from Strategic Traction. He's a brilliant business coach, and I think that this is going to be a very awesome session. We've got a couple of minutes. We've got people still joining, so we're going to give people everybody a couple of minutes to join. I'd like to direct you to the right of the screen. It's on the right on my side anyways, where there's a Q&A. You can ping us with your Q&A, and we will get to those questions and answers as quickly as we can. Also, you'll notice that I've published, excuse me, an announcement in the Q&A with a web link. There's a workbook that we're going to work through today, and you can go and download it there. Please do. And so just click that web link, go and download the workbook, and sort of work along with Chris. So just give us a moment, and we'll be right back at you here in a minute or two as we let people join. Well, there you go, Chris. I have to tell you, Chris, that as a percentage of people who were signed up for the event to the people who are actually on this call, I think that you win the top prize for the ratio of actual attendees to actual registered. We've got nearly everybody who registered for this event is on the call today, and so that's a home run for you. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Chris Jones to you, and here he is. You're good to go, Chris.
Hey, thanks, Clayton. Thanks for having me. When Clayton told me that he had a group of entrepreneurial business owners and people to work in those kind of businesses, I said, sign me up. How can I help? And so happy to be able to chat with your group today. So thanks for having me. I think two main goals that I want to work with you here today is I want you to be able to look at your business in a different way, through a different filter to help you build a better business. And secondly, I want to give you some tools, some simple, practical, tangible tools so you can help build a better business, gain traction in times of crisis and in times of normal, so that you can ultimately get what you want out of your business. I have this privilege of being part of this global community of these crazy entrepreneurs, dedicated, obsessed to helping entrepreneurs get what they want out of their business. It's a heck of a fun group to be a part of. Not always healthy, by the way. We can go a little over the top, but it's just what we love to do. So with that in mind, what do you want out of your business? So I'd love each of you to just spend a moment, think about what that is, and write it down. If you've got the workbook open and printed, please write it down in there. We will use that over the course of our time together today.
Right. Chris, can I jump in just because we've had a few late joiners, and I think we're at 100% attendance right now, actually, which you're definitely setting a record. So congratulations. Everybody, there's a Q&A in your Teams app here on the right. Can you please publish any questions that you have there? Those questions are private; only we can see them until we publish them. So we will manage those questions and get them to Chris. But also, I've posted a link to the workbook that we're working through today. Can you please go and download that workbook from our website? It's a PDF, and let's work through it together today. Sorry to interrupt, Chris. It's all yours again.
It's all good. Let's make sure everyone's got that. That workbook will be really helpful today to kind of tie down some of the concepts that I'm talking about and make it real. So that's why we're here. So when you're thinking about what you want out of your business, I want you to think of 3 criteria. The first one is, I want it just one thing, right? Like, I don't want a laundry list of things. Pick one thing that you want and think of minimum of 5 years out. What is the big goal? And then 7 words or less, just pick one thing. See if you can write something down. And everybody wants something different. So I'll talk a little bit while you write. Some people want to grow big, want massive revenue. They want market share. Others want profit. Others want peace of mind. Others want to change the world. Others want to create game-changing innovation. So whatever that is for you, it's all good, but write it down. At the end of the day, I see 2 kinds of businesses, 2 kinds of leaders in the world. Those that are getting what they want out of their business and those that aren't. And those that aren't are frustrated. And so we see, oh, clicked on the wrong thing here. We see these entrepreneurs that are frustrated, and they're, there's common frustrations that we see with these people. And so I'm going to share with you the frustrations. And if you write anything down today, don't write these down. So,
Chris, are you clicking through your presentation right now?
I am.
Okay, it's just catching up here. We got a bit of a weak internet connection, but we'll keep working through it. I'm up to 5 frustrations on your screen, so I think we're all good.
That's where we are exactly right now. Good. So yeah,
Perfect.
If there's a little bit of lag, maybe I'll try and get ahead of it just a little bit. So if I click now, should say control.
Yeah, we got it.
Okay, we're not that far off then. Okay, good. So one of the key frustrations in times of crisis and in times of normal is lack of control, right? We used to be able to wrap our arms around the business, and we just can't anymore. And so there just isn't the control that we want. There's so much uncertainty in the world. People aren't doing what we want them to do. And, it's frustrating. The second common frustration we see is profit, right? Or lack thereof, in that they're just not making the return on heartbeats for what they're putting into the business. They're just not making enough money to justify the effort. People, I don't know, anybody on this call had people frustrations? I know that I have, and every leader I've encountered has had people frustrations. Customers, employees, vendors, they just don't seem to get it. And, why aren't they rowing in the same direction that we are? Fourth frustration is that they're hitting the ceiling. There's just this imaginary barrier that we just can't seem to get past. We keep running into something, and we're spinning our wheels and can't get beyond that point. And the fifth frustration is nothing's working. We're reading all the books and listening to all the podcasts and trying all the stuff, and we're throwing stuff at the wall and just nothing's sticking, and we become this flavor of the month kind of company. So I see these frustrations time and time again. And if you're like me, look at the gap of there's these people that are getting what they want out of their business, and they're happy, and they're hitting their goals, and they're making their numbers. And then there's these people that aren't, and they're frustrated. And so what's the gap, right? How do we bridge that gap? And that's why I'm here today, because I think we figured out how to do it. And I've seen it time and time again. Like I said, I'm part of this incredible global community that teach this system that we call EOS. And so I'm going to show you the model today at a high level and dive into a couple of the tools here. So at the center of this model is your business. And then there's 6 key components in order to strengthen your business. So the discovery was every leader, manager, owner, entrepreneur tends to wrestle with about 136 things simultaneously at any given time. In other words, there's a lot of moving parts to business. But the discovery was if you can strengthen just 6 key components, well, the 136 things, well, they just fall into place because they're just symptoms of a root cause. So at the high level, the model looks like this. Our vision component, kind of where are we going and how are we going to get there? But it's about getting on the same page with what that looks like with our team so that all our human energy is rowing in the same direction. The people component, how do we get great people in the organization so we can actually achieve our vision? That's the key, right? And the realization here is, though, what is the definition of great people? And so if we've got 50 people on this call, the realization is there's 50 different definitions for great. And so I'm going to cut through some of that rhetoric today and help you define what great people are for your organization. The data component, this is how do we counterbalance the people? How do we get rid of the opinions and the egos, the subjectivity and the personalities, and get the great numbers for the business? Because if we get the great numbers, the numbers don't lie, and it'll give us a pulse on the business at any given time to let us predict and see the future and see the train wrecks before they happen. And when these 3 components are strong in any business, what you've got is a transparent organization. Your problems, opportunities, barriers, they just stand out. There's nowhere to hide. And we call that the issues component. And the issues component is about solving our problems, leveraging our opportunities. And, there's a direct correlation of how strong we are in the issues component and whether or not we achieve our vision. Our process component is how do we make the business more consistent? What's the franchise model for our company? And so we got to make it more consistent, efficient, effective, manageable. It's more fun to work in when we nail this. And yes, it's more scalable, more profitable, more valuable. And then last but not least, the sixth key component is our traction component. This is where we bring our vision down to the ground and make it a reality. As the saying goes, vision without traction is hallucination. Right? It's just a dream unless we get it done. And so this at a high level is this EOS model, entrepreneurial operating system. And so my passion, my obsession is helping companies through this protocol. I've lived this. I'm a 26-year entrepreneur. I've lived this in my own companies. I've helped more than 40 companies through this and implementing the tools from this. You know, and there's 100,000 ways, 100,000s of books of written on how do we strengthen each of these things. It's not rocket science, these basic concepts, but the brilliance of this system is the simplicity of it. How do we boil it down into just two simple tools or disciplines? How do we strengthen each of these components? Today, being it's just a lunch webinar, we're going to focus on 3 components today. And if you want to fill in the gaps, we can always connect later. And I'll give you some resources to how you can learn more about the other ones. But let's get some meat on the bone with 3 of these concepts today. What I'm about to share with you, there's not an ounce of theory. We've done this now. We're over 9,000 companies, more than 85,000 full-day sessions globally. I'm one of 365. We call ourselves implementers. We don't do it for the sexy title, clearly, but this is what we love to do. And I don't tell you that to brag about the numbers. I'm telling you those numbers to help you understand this is a proven system and a way of getting what you want out of your business in times of crisis and in times of quote unquote normal. Okay, so let's dive into this. So the vision, we're not diving deep here, but what I need you to understand is you got to get clear on 8 simple questions to get clear on your vision, and that vision is shared by everyone in the company. That starts with the leaders, and we take it to everybody else. Because when we go to the second component, where we're diving a little deeper in today, is what is the people component, right? And how do we strengthen that? And so I said I was going to define 2 simple tools or disciplines, and to define great people, it's right people in the right seats, and you have to have both. And so if we take these things one at a time, now some of you may understand that right people, right seats is a call out to Jim Collins and his business masterpiece called Good to Great. And if you're like me, when you read that book, you're like, well, that's awesome. I want right people and right seats in my business. And then I was like, well, how do I do that? And I tried and I struggled and had a few mishaps here. I like to say I got a lot of valuable battle scars from my time in my businesses. But when I figured this out, I'm going to show you some simple tools. So one of the things that we figure out in our vision is what is our core values. The authentic, real core values, what makes us quirky and weird. And that's actually what defines what the right people are for our organization. So we have this simple tool called the People Analyzer. So if you want to look in the workbook, it is on page 6. And
for the last few people who just jumped on, there's a workbook link in the comments section. Sorry, I saw 2 more people join. So
awesome. Good. Well, we're over 100% capacity. That's good. Okay, so People Analyzer. This is how you bring your core values to life. And you put your core values across the top, and I'll just put mine up here for example. Humbly confident, grow or die, help first, do the right thing, and do what you say. Those are our core values. That may not resonate with you, that's okay, but that's just what makes us quirky and weird and what we're all about, how we live. And then on the left-hand side, you put the names of the people in your organization. So I'm going to use Joanne, Martin, and Ellen for example's sake today. And then what do you do to bring those core values to life and measure whether they're the right person or not? Is by using a very simple rating system of plus, plus minus, or minus. Now, plus is almost always, right? So we take, for example, Joanne Wright, humbly confident. She is almost always humbly confident. Everyone has a bad day every now and then, but it's just generally how she lives her life. A minus, usually not. So Martin, for example, doesn't often live humbly confident. It's just not who he is. He's either too arrogant or, there's something eating at him always. And then plus minus is in the middle. So Ellen is sometimes yes, sometimes no with this core value. And we just run this through each one of the core values, right? And so you can see grow or die. Again, Joanne Wright is awesome again. We look at the help first component, the do the right thing, and the do what you say. So I'm not going to belabor each one of these and what they mean and how they show up. But the idea is get a black and white tool that shows whether the person's living that core value or not. And what it does, it creates a great context for a conversation with one of your teammates. And so we get all this rating system, and we can see Joanne's a superstar. Martin's a bit of a troublemaker, and we're not sure what Ellen is yet because we're missing one thing here. We need what we call the bar. What is the minimum acceptable standard to stay employed in the company? And so what we recommend is 50% or better pluses, the rest plus minuses. So our bar is 3 pluses with 2 plus minuses. No minuses, right? If you're usually not this, it's like, look, I got to free you up to go find another company. And so and it can be in any order. And so when we look at this, well, Joanne Wright, well, clearly she's a rock star. We love being around her. She lives our core values. Martin Gilbert is clearly causing us a lot of problems in our business right now, and now we understand why. He's not living our core values, so we are going to be bashing heads all the time with Martin. And Ellen, she's kind of on the bubble. And so one of the key things in bringing tools like this back to your company is you start to bring stuff like this to life. A, you got to figure out the core values. They got to be legitimately you. And then B, when you bring tools like this out, it's a teaching process, an education process on you as a leader. Hey, these are the expectations going forward in the business. This is how we got to show up. How can I help you get above the bar? So we got to have some conversations and figure it all out. And Martin, it's like, wow, you're getting them to rate themselves as well. So it's not just you rating. And then have conversations around this stuff and coach them up and get them above the bar, or help them find another business that they're going to fit the culture better so that they're not struggling so much. Life's too short to work with people that don't live our values. And so Ellen Smith, you can see she's just below the bar, so great opportunity for a conversation. And I know I've had conversations with my teammates who are like, hey, you're plus minus here too. Yeah, like how, so why do you think that is? Where do you think that's coming from? And how can I help and support you get above the bar? Because I'd love you to stay in the business, but I'm also prepared that culture is king long term for us. I want to build a great culture where people love coming to work, and core values are critical to making that happen. So it's just that subtle note to them of like, look, core values really mean something for our organization. So bring the people analyzer to life using this tool and the core values. The second part, so that's right people for the organization. The second part is, are they in the right seat? And so what does that mean, right? Like it's this whole thing to understand the structure for our business and designing like an org chart, but we call it the accountability chart. And one of the key rules in developing this document is structure first, people second. So don't design the chart around the people. Design the chart around what does your business need to get you to the next level. Because, hey, we all change over time, including us as leaders. And so design the structure around what does the business need. And so we call it the accountability chart. And it's like an org chart on steroids. And I'll help you map out what I mean by structure. So think about your business in functions, not in title. That's like ego and all that crap. Director, VP, whatever. I don't care. I just want to know the major functions of the business. And so here are the major functions in any business, and I'll talk about how you change it and tweak it. But marketing and sales, right? How do we generate leads and convert them to customers? Operations, how do we deliver our product or service? And finance, how do we take care of our assets, our money, our people, our IT, our admin, this kind of thing. And then on the leadership above that, every great business has something that we call the integrator. And the integrator is the person that beats the drum of the organization. They're the glue that holds it together. They're making sure the trains are running on time. They're the ultimate manager for the organization. And, they tend to live in the world of logic and reason, and they're just good at filtering out all the garbage and making great decisions. And so they integrate those major functions to make sure they play nice together. Now, about 50% of our businesses also have what we call a visionary, right? And the visionary is the big ideas person. They come with 20 ideas a week. 19 of them, quite frankly, are crap. But the one idea that's good is really good, and it takes us to the next level. And so visionaries, and I'm making fun of myself here, we can be a bit of squirrel chasers. And sometimes we even feel bad for that. But what this whole thing is about, freeing our visionaries to do their best work. Because visionaries, when we're operating in our highest gear, we're coming up with a ton of ideas. We're making lots of connections with the outside world and building great relationships. We tend to be good at solving complex problems in the industry, and we live in the world of passion and emotion. We're the best promoters for the business you could ever have. And so if we can get this thing figured out in a business, if we have a visionary and can get an integrator in place, this combination is powerful. There's a whole book that's written on it called Rocket Fuel. And the concept is, imagine the visionary with arrows pointing to the outside world, finding opportunities and bringing them in. And then the integrator helps us filter those ideas. No, bit of a wet blanket sometimes. But all of a sudden the integrator says, now that's an idea that's going to help us get where we need to go. And the integrators now focus on execution. And so the visionary brings the ideas in, integrator helps us to filter them, and then it's focused on execution. Because visionaries, quite frankly, most visionaries suck at execution. So how do we free them from that and get them with that right-hand person? And there's a whole concept, a whole workshop I do called Rocket Fuel about this concept. And there's been tons of them in history. Henry Ford and Ford Cousins, and Steve Jobs and Wozniacki. Like there's Walt Disney and Roy. Like these are powerful combinations when you get this right, of the big ideas person with the execution focused individual. So that's the concept of structure, right? Of the leadership team, you start there. And so you get like what we call a seat, and you define the seats first, and maybe you have multiple ops seats, or finance, HR, IT might split out, marketing, sales might split out. It all depends, what does your company need? And so you define the seat, right? And you name the function. Again, don't get caught up in these VP and directors and all this jazz. And then you're going to pick the 5 high-level roles for that seat. What's the high level? And you can see an example of what an accountability chart looks like on page 7 at the leadership team level. What are the high-level roles that they're accountable for delivering on? And then the other thing that goes in the seat is the name of the person and who's accountable for executing that role. Now, we don't put someone into that seat unless they're just born to do it. We call it get it, want it, capacity to do the role. And you've got to be yes to all 3 of those to sit in that seat, right? So if you weren't born to do that role, it's not your gift to the world, then why are you sitting there? I'll tell you, when I first discovered this concept and mapped out my company, I was sitting in 4 seats, and 3 of them I had no business doing. No wonder why I was so frustrated. And we weren't gaining very much traction in those key areas because I was just kind of plugging holes, doing my best, and really not very good at it and shouldn't be doing it long term. So I started firing myself from those seats, and what a ton of fun that was. And guess what? We started growing faster, less effort. It was so much fun because we had better people in those seats. And so when you map out the leadership team level, then you map out everyone in the organization, top to bottom. You get the right person fitting the core values in the right seat, doing what they're born to do. And you can imagine how much progress you can make when you've got that happening in your business. Now, 2 common people problems that we see with people. First one is you've got the right person. They fit your organization like a glove, your culture, you love them, they love you. Problem is they're in the wrong seat. You know, the seat's too big, it's overwhelming, seat's too small, they're not challenged enough. Maybe they're working behind the curtain when their gift is working in front of the curtain dealing with people. And so, you know, depending on how many seats are in your organization, can you move them to a seat that they were born to do? If you can't, and you're running a for-profit business, I encourage you to help them understand why they're so frustrated, why they're not feeling fulfilled. You know, and we've got to find another seat, or we got to free them up and give them a heck of a reference to another company to go crush that role in someone else's business. So first common people problem, it's tough. We really like them. I just say invite them back to your Christmas party, because we do really enjoy being around these people because they do live our core values. Second common people problem we see is they are in the right seat. Holy smokes, are they good at doing what they do? If they were to go to another business, they'd be crazy to work in any other area because they're so gifted in this arena. The problem is they are the wrong person. They don't live our core values, right? And so they light fires in our business, sometimes intentionally, sometimes not intentionally, just because they're not the right cultural fit. And our team's constantly running around putting out these fires, and they chip away at our culture in ways that we see and even more ways that we don't see. So again, I'm going to challenge you that once you figure all this stuff out, get the right people into the right seat, and if they're the wrong person, free them up to find another business that fits their value set. If you look at this thing, can I go back here? If you think of that accountability chart structure here, and imagine you've got a jerk living there, they really don't live your core values. They're just tough to work with. I like to say it's better a hole than an asshole, right? It's better to get rid of that person, free them up, and your team will gladly cover for that person than be working with a turkey all the time, right? So a little bit of a crude saying, but hope you don't mind, but that's just kind of how I do things. All right. Okay, so 2 common people problems: right person, wrong seat, right seat, wrong person. Super common. If you've got people problems like that, that's okay. You're just normal. You've got to put it on the issues list. We'll talk about that more later, and you just got to solve it over time. To get 100% strong in this component is where everyone in your company, top to bottom, is the right person. They're all in the right seat, doing what they were born to do. I'll tell you, it is just a ton of fun when you get companies in that situation. So when you get those 3 components strong in any business, right? You got your vision, crystal clear on where you're headed and how you're going to get there. Your people, great people, top to bottom, and your data, right? So we didn't talk a lot about data, or didn't talk about data much today, just due to time. But how do we get the right numbers for the business? And you end up with that transparent organization, like I said. And so there's just nowhere to hide for issues. We get really good at smoking them out. And this is where we get to the 4th key component we call issues, right? And so the issues component, how do we get all those issues on the table? And so there's 2 simple tools again here, or disciplines. And the first one is simply building what we call the issues list. Right? This is we call it real simple results. This stuff is, the concepts are so simple and they're so powerful because they are so easy to follow once you figure out how to do it. The second part of the issues list issues components we call IDS, or the issue solving track. And so you build the issues list and then you make them go away using this track. Let me explain a little bit more about what that means. Because in times of crisis, holy smoke, we are getting hit with issues left, right, and center right now. And so, as we say in this world, it's just an issue. I get it. It sucks sometimes. Put it on the list. And then what are we going to do with it? Well, it's this thing IDS, and that stands for identify, discuss, and solve. And so this whole thing came about because of a fit of rage. We're looking at complex issue solving products, and we're just moving too fast for those to work. And so we're sitting with these high performance companies with great leadership teams, and they're in their weekly meetings, and where do they spend all their time? Discuss, 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 discuss. It was crazy. Rarely did they identify the root cause of the issue, and rarely did they solve anything. It was just a massive waste of time. They were lighting money on fire. Huge waste of time and resources. And so how do we slow things down a little? Because often the stated issue is just a symptom. So we've got to spend the first part of our time identifying the root cause. And before we do that, we're going to prioritize what are we going to talk about. So we've got our issues list over here. You can see those. But what's the most important issue? Don't take the easy one first. Take the most important one. Well, in this case, Andy S. in the right seat is the biggest issue we're facing right now. Someone else says website rock is off track and our anodyne merger. So those are we're going to prioritize the top three, and then we're going to say, okay, issue number one, Andy S. right seat, let's go, and we're going to identify the root cause. Well, what's going on here? What's happening? He fits our core values, but this isn't the seat he was born to do. Well, what are his skill sets, etc.? What's the root of this? And we got to dig a little. Ask why 5 times. Tell me more. Once we've hit the root of the issue, I say it's like hitting the nerve. It's like, oh, that's what's going on here. Well, now we move on to a discussion. Well, maybe Andy S. is in a finance seat and he really is horrible at detail. And we need detail out of that person. It's like, okay, well, that's the root of this. He never should have been in this seat in the first place. So how do we get him into the right seat, and what are the options? We're going to have meaningful discussion. We're going to lay out the options and what we can do. And then what are we going to do? We're going to solve the issue. And when I mean solve, what can we do to permanently solve this issue for the greater good, long-term health of the organization? Right? This isn't just about like, how does it make me look good? Like, get rid of the ego and the politics and all that jazz. What's the solve that's going to permanently solve it? And so when we figure that out in this situation, it creates, maybe it's a decision, maybe it's an action item, maybe there's a cascading message we got to tell other people about. So we get crystal clear on that solve. Once that's done, we wipe that issue, we move on to issue number 2, and we again IDS that issue. And so then we move to issue number 3, then we reprioritize and move through them again. Just solve one issue at a time, but solve them permanently if you can solve them with excellent to-dos, decisions, cascading messages. So when we're strengthening the issues component, it's really that simple. Get open, honest, and vulnerable, populating that issues list. Like, don't be afraid to put anything on that list, right? It's just an issue. You can put it on that list. Now we can do something about it, and we can IDS it. And we're going to solve our issues over time. And that's what's going to help us achieve the vision in the organization, because we're just solving our problems one at a time. Now, the 5th key component is the process component. And the quick capture for this, why do we focus on this? I want to systemize the predictable so you can humanize the exceptional. Right? This is a freedom tool for us as leaders. So we take an entrepreneurial approach to this, and the 2 tools or disciplines is to document those key processes, just a handful of core ones, and get them followed by everyone in the business, and that makes a consistent company with a great franchise model. I've had 2 companies sell in the last 12 months that I've worked with. They both got way higher than normal multiples in their business because they had such great systems and their processes were defined top to bottom. So they got better value for their dollar. And guess what? Those companies are a lot more fun to work in. So again, apologize we don't dive deeper there today, but I picked out the key ones that in times of crisis that you're going to want to focus on. And traction is critical. You know, that book by Gino Wickman called Traction, there's a reason that's the primary, is so many businesses struggle to make it happen. The discipline and accountability to get it done. And so how do we bring traction to life in your business? And there's two tools here. Now, the first one is called Rocks. And this is just simply a 90-day priority of setting and hitting the highest priorities for the business and each of the individuals in the company. And so keep it simple, less is more. But what are those handful of priorities that have to get done right now? So coming out of the crisis right now, I mean, quite frankly, we had set Rocks, February 20th, and then a month later, the whole world went upside down. Well, we went back, we looked at our Rocks and said, okay, we couldn't have seen this coming, so we need to revisit our Rocks. And one of my Rocks became define a contingency plan for COVID. And so it had a whole list of things within it, but we changed our Rocks accordingly because, you know, the world changed. Now that's the exception to the rule, is to change Rocks mid-quarter. The normal is, hey, we can see, you know, what can we do in the next 90 days? And we're going to set 100% of our attention. We want to prioritize those top things, those issues that we have to solve. What are the highest priorities? And then we're going to put our efforts into making that happen. Confucius had a quote that you move a mountain one stone at a time. Well, I believe you build a great business one rock at a time. Change a handful of things, top priority of the business every 90 days, and it will transform your company. The second discipline is what we call meetings, or the meeting pulse. Now, all great businesses have a series of meetings if you want to gain traction. So in our world, we recommend a 2-day annual meeting, 1-day quarterly meetings, and then weekly, what we call the level 10 meeting. And so if you want to make great stuff happen in your business, develop a cadence like that. We're not a fan of having meetings for the sake of meetings. So they're only high value, big impact meetings. So what I'm going to talk about here in a little bit more detail here is so here's the 90-day world, but I'm going to talk about the level 10 meeting. So this is the weekly meeting intended for the leadership team. It's 90 minutes long, and it starts out with 5 minutes of good news. Now, hold on. Back it up 1 second. The elements of a good meeting are, here I got a couple details here. So we're going to, oh, that did not come through. Okay, well, I know what it is. So you're just going to, didn't make the bullet point for some reason. It's not showing up here. So the elements of a great meeting are they start on time, they end on time, they have the same agenda, they're the same day, and the same time. And then they solve great issues, solve real issues. If you're doing that in your meeting pulse, you're going to have outstanding meetings. And so when we get into the weekly level 10, you know, same day, same time. So our Monday meetings are Monday at 10 a.m. And so they start out with 5 minutes of good news. It's a psychological segue to get you out of the weeds, thinking big picture and positive. And so share one personal, one professional good news. And then 15 minutes of reporting a maximum on the most important things in our business. Our scorecard, that's the data component stuff. Our rocks that we set, are they on track or off track to being done on time? And then customer employee headlines. What are the most important people in our world saying, doing right now? What's going on? So 15 minutes, keep it tight. And then we bring a little accountability into the meeting with a to-do list. 5 minutes. What did you say you were going to get done by this meeting, right? 7 to 14 days is a to-do range. And then our issues list. 60 minutes of the 90 is spent building that list and solving those issues one at a time. You want to hold great meetings? IDS, the most important things in your business, and solve those permanently every week. And just little by little, incrementally change and solve and make decisions that you need to make, and it transforms the business. You gain so much traction when you have these key elements done every single week. My teams, they report to me good news when they come into our quarterly meetings, and they say what's working and what's not working in the business. And the number of times I've heard, wow, our L10s, our level 10 meetings are working so great. It's made such a difference to us. So just share that with you. And then to finish this 90-minute meeting, don't forget to conclude. And you want to recap the to-do list. Someone's crystal clear on what they got to do. You want to clarify any cascading messages to tell people outside of the walls of that meeting. And lastly, rate the meeting 1 to 10, with 10 being best. Give each other feedback if it wasn't a great meeting. Be real with each other so that we can make huge value out of our time together. It's so precious. Okay, so the traction component, right? The two disciplines are how do we each have a handful of rocks to change the business and make it better. And everyone in the company gets into a weekly meeting pulse. Maybe not 90 minutes for everybody, but everybody's in some form of a meeting pulse so that the left hand knows what the right hand is doing. And that's how you gain traction with discipline and accountability, and making those things happen all the time. It makes a huge difference. Okay, so make sure we have time for some Q&A today. But at the end of the day, you can see 3 of the components here. Oh, hold on. In the 6 key components, you strengthen each of these, and you can see how the 136 things, they're all just a symptom of something deeper that fits into there. You strengthen all those components, and all of a sudden, you start getting what you want. I just say be careful what you wish for, because you will get results. And it's, you know, you got to be careful what you wish for. You put the wheels in motion, you get everything happening, and it just, you know, you just get there quicker than you sometimes expect you're going to. I've got tons of personal stories around that. You're welcome to ask me in Q&A of like my personal experience there, but I want to give you time for questions. So we're going to move on to wrap this up here. Okay, so a couple of key resources to help you from our time today. We give a ton of this stuff away. You can get the book Traction and the series of books in the EOS Traction series. There's 5 books in the series. You know, Traction, Rocket Fuel, what the heck is EOS, Get a Grip, and How to Be a Great Boss. So great resources there. There's downloadable tools and videos on the website. We give tons of stuff away. And you can work with an EOS implementer like myself. We will help you get there better and faster. And with that, I've got 3 things I'll offer you here today that won't cost you a dime. I will offer you a 90-minute meeting to sit down, and I will take you and your leadership team through this thing and how it can impact your business. And it costs you nothing to actually give you one of the books. Right now, of course, we're all virtual. The second thing I'll do is I'll offer you the free ebook Decide by Gino Wickman. I'll give you that for free. You just put your email and your name in the chat with what you want, the ebook, the 90, or the last thing I'll offer you is a 30-minute consult at no charge. I'll just spend 30 minutes on the phone helping you however I can help you. Again, no charge, just how can I help you move your business forward. All right, so those are the offerings, so please put that in the chat if you want any of that stuff. You know, my final thoughts on, you know, get a system and use it. Someone has figured out how to run a great business. This is one of the great business operating systems out there. There's others, they work. Get one, use one. Spend your time and precious energy focused on doing the great things in your business, not how to run it. And because at the end of the day, it's all about getting what you want. I want you to get that thing that you wrote down on the paper earlier today, because that's why we do this. Like, get freedom, have some fun, and accomplish great stuff. Let's make our time on this earth useful. And finish, you know, it's just real simple results. Thanks for the time here. I want to open the floor to questions. So Clayton's going to help me manage that. But there's my coordinates. So fire away. How can I help?
Right on. Well, we'll let some questions roll in here because we got about a 20-second pause delay on the recording. But in the meantime, you know, me as sort of a, I guess, self-proclaimed visionary leader, I could jump into a few questions for you, and I know Ronnie's got a few as well. Ronnie's our client experience leader, who's also producing the session. You know, we've had in the last 18 months a couple scenarios where I've had to exactly say, I've got to free you up so that you can go find another company. I love that quote, Chris.
Yeah.
I love that because it's exactly true. It's not about you're fired. It's about this isn't a good fit. You know it. I know it. Like, let's get you doing something that you like to do.
Yeah. How can we give them every opportunity to succeed? And let's get real about it. And if it's just not for them, then hey, how do I help you find another one that's a better fit?
Yeah, totally. And so, we IDS fairly regularly here, but my biggest challenge, or our biggest challenge at Aiken Henderson, is, we're growing at a pretty good clip, and it really is just knowing, as you mentioned, we wear a lot of hats as entrepreneurs, particularly when we're smaller and we don't have a pile of resources. And so, just understanding who we need to hire and when we can hand over a hat or a position on the chart, as you called it. I mean, that's a real mystery to me, and I feel like, because we've got our vision defined and we've got nice processes, and it's become a lot more clear to know when to add those.
Yep.
But it's like the ultimate conundrum that I face is, what comes first, the growth or the people, right? So anyways, can I leave that with you and get your thoughts on that?
Well, first of all, it's just an issue, right? So, for example, I'm in the integrator seat in my business as I'm growing. This is my 4th business now that I'm growing, and I'm in the integrator seat. I'm a natural visionary. Now, it's been on the issues list for 3 years now for us. And we will hire one day. It's on my 3-year picture of when I get out of that seat. So now I started in the finance seat in this business, but it was smarter for me to fire myself from the finance seat first, because I could plug and play with someone else there, than having someone do the integrator role in my business. That was the biggest fish to fry for us. Integrator was down the road, and it's coming. We're going to find someone to fill that role when we're ready, but we're not ready for it yet. And so it's just an issue. Now, what do we do in the meantime to manage that issue so that we don't have balls dropped? Because I'm not always great at holding people accountable. And so I tell them, I'm like, hey, I'm putting my integrator hat on here, and I got to kick your ass right now. This has got to get done. I got to hold you accountable, so help me get there. And so we manage that issue collectively as a team, knowing that I'm not a great integrator, as we take us through about the next 18 to 24 months before we can be in a position to hire one. And so that might be the same for your business. Hey, you might be in those seats. Well, first of all, figure out what seats you're not good at and you shouldn't be in, right? Get it, want a capacity. You just shouldn't be in a couple of those seats. We'll write them down on the issues list. Clayton in the sales seat, whatever that is. And you're going to solve it in time. And at some point is going to be the right time to tackle that issue of, like, it is causing us so much pain. And what you're going to find is you're IDSing other issues. The root cause is going to be Clayton in the sales seat. And eventually it's costing you so much money with you in that seat that you shouldn't be in, that it's actually worth it for you to hire someone else, because the root cause of the issues keep coming back to Clayton in the sales seat.
Yeah, and that really comes down to data, doesn't it, right? Like, how many leads are coming in? How many are you turning over? Why are you missing those? It's like you need to collect that data. So I totally agree with you. Ronnie, I'm going to put you on the spot. Are you cool with that? You can go ahead and read out a few of those questions that you saw there. So here's Ronnie.
Thanks, Chris. One of the things that I have is, what happens if you don't have that 90 minutes? What are you suggesting are the most key? I find typically after an hour, people start losing attention. So what would you specifically focus on if you needed to cut that shorter?
Oh, you're talking the weekly level 10 meeting?
Yes.
Yeah. First of all, if you're running grade L10, that 90 minutes will be like 3 to 4 times ROI. Secondly, if people are losing their interest at 60 minutes, you're like, hey, look, have we solved the key issues for today? Yeah, there's nothing burning? Great. Kill the meeting. We're done. We're going to end up early. I'm giving you 30 minutes of your day back. So end it early if you're done with the big issues. But if you're open, honest, and vulnerable and sharing with each other in the feedback at the end, well, why are we, people seem to, we lost them at 60 minutes today. I'm going to rate it a 9 because I think someone looked like they were on email there for a bit. And that person's like, someone showed up late. Someone, so give each other feedback in the ratings of what were the gaps of making it a great meeting. And if you think that 60 minutes is your max time, then try 60. I encourage you to start with 90 because when you're actually, if you're getting through your reporting in 25 minutes or less, right, let me just pull up this slide again. Let's talk about key common problems with the level 10 meeting is that people spend too much time talking about reporting and rock updates and customer employee headlines. They get into big stories. Well, that's not value creating discussion, quite frankly. I want to know whether your rock is on track or off track, and I don't want you to talk about it any further. If it's off track, we're going to put it on the issues list and we're going to yes it. But don't tell me that your scorecard number, I hit 8 warm leads this week, and let me tell you about each one of them. I quite frankly don't give a shit. I'm just glad that we got 8, we hit our number, and if there's further issues you want to put it and talk about it further, put it on the issues list. So don't get caught in reporting. Further down in the issues component, if you're solving real issues, I don't think you're going to have a problem with 60 minutes because people are going to understand that these are real issues that we're tackling. And then it becomes a huge value in our time, especially if the team has contributed to setting rocks, they understand the scorecard well. And, this is just connecting the circles and getting everyone on the same page. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, and then with the to-dos, are we hitting our top ones, or how do you start that out on,
Great
what's
question.
too minor, what's major, how do you know which is which, and
these
what
are
to
not
accomplish
all
first?
of the to-dos. Oh, sorry to cut you off. Finish.
That's okay. No, and then what to accomplish first, how do you go?
So to-dos are just come out of the issues that we solve together as a team. These are not everything that's on your to-do list, Ronnie. Again, I kind of don't care what you do in your world, as long as you're delivering the results and you're bringing issues when you got problems. I don't need a reporting of everything you're doing. I trust you to do your job. You GWC your seat, you live the core values. Awesome. Tell me when you got troubles or ideas. And so the to-dos are, hey, that issue that we solved last week? Well, these are the to-dos that we decided that we're going to make it go away. Are they done or not?
Got it.
And we should be 90% of our to-dos solved in 7 days. 10% of them might take 2 weeks. So the to-dos are just simply the accountability component of solving issues together. Does that help?
It does. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions coming out?
Sorry, I just was on mute. One of the things, on the 60-minute meetings that I have trouble with as a leader is everybody is slammed around here. We're a professional services firm. Everybody's really, really focused on happy clients and turning work around. And our entire universe, unfortunately, revolves around deadlines. As much as we have shifted to a participation age company and we grant an incredible amount of autonomy, and our team really is kicking ass. Everybody's got a ton to do at all times. Everybody's flat out. And so to ask people to come into those meetings sometimes it's just and so you're saying that, that's really the framework of the meeting is it needs to be addressed there maybe to keep everybody engaged in it. And so, for me, that's really useful information and frankly, we might have to bring you into one or something. So
here's a couple of key things around level 10s. So your leadership team should be in the 90-minute meeting. Each of the heads of the major operations. The rest of the people are not. Right? The departmental meetings, that leader's then going to go and run the ops meeting and bring their teammates in. That meeting's going to be shorter. Because the people that are executing and on the front lines, yeah, they are cranking out stuff. They're like, oh, don't keep me for 90 minutes. I don't have time. And quite frankly, we don't have that many issues. right? But I need the opportunity for those people to bring issues to the table, solve them together in order for it to work. And so you've got a group of meetings. The departmental ones are shorter.
Thank you.
Helpful.
I don't see anything else there, guys. Do you have anything else, Ronnie?
No, I think we'd love to have you at one of our sessions, Chris.
Yeah, I'd be more than happy to. If you want, I could review your L10 if you're using these tools. Otherwise, I think we'd be better off spent doing the 90-minute meeting where I just teach the whole concept to your leadership team, and then they can take it and run with the tools. Costs, like literally, we set people up in that 90 that they can do it for free themselves, and then they just hire us if they want some help, right? So we're happy to do that little give to help people gain some traction.
Looks like you have a couple of requests for books and consults. I just want to let everybody on the webinar know before we log off here. We have a session next week on how Aiken Henderson sets up and drives automated bookkeeping systems. So if you're tired of bookkeeping, you want to get out of that, and you're a data junkie like me, and you'd rather have more goodful, useful, actionable information about your business, as Chris spoke to earlier, we're going to walk you through how to build those systems. Whether or not you use us, we're going to talk about the world of accounting technology and automation. The following week is going to be about everything you need to know about corporate law. Well, not everything, of course, that's a huge topic, but business owners will get a quick crash course on private company law. And then the following week, we've got another great session with another great business coach. So thank you so much, everyone, for attending, and thank you so much, Chris. I'm going to put Chris's contact information up on the slide here one more time, and of course we will follow up with an email that people are asking for the slide deck. I'll check with Chris on that, and then of course we record everything and throw it on our YouTube channels for the attendees for all our webinars. So thank you so much for joining, really appreciate it. Chris, Ronnie, if you want to hang out for a second, everybody else, we're going to log off now, and thank you so much.